All right, friends, welcome back again to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to all things Bannerlord related as we continue to explore the 1.32 update. And today we are going to focus on Battania. In particular, we are going to focus on army composition. I get this question a lot. I see it a lot on Reddit. I get this question through Discord and through comments a lot. How many archers? How many infantry? 20%, 30, 30%, 40%? How much cavalry? Right? These questions hopefully can be answered today. Now we're going to do this in a very deliberate and organic method. We're going to basically fight random battles. I'm going to select random battlefield maps. Each of these challenges will be very difficult, and we will have random army compositions, both fighting our army here and for our own army. We will, of course, talk tactics all the way through here, including the vastly improved veteran Battanian veteran falksmen, the nasty falksmen, their elite skirmishers, the effects of cavalry through these battles. Now, we're not going to use Battanian fiend champs. Yes, that's right. We're going to pass on the tier 6 Battanian fiend champ. We're going to be outnumbered by 50%. We'll have all the other units, but our enemy will have 50% more troops than us, and they will have tier 6 banner knights or whatever else noble units. We will quite literally just fizz through the menu here. We might even do a village battle or two, and I will be attacker and defender with Battania here with random army compositions. Now, truth be told, I think I already have the answer, but I don't want to tell you at the beginning of this episode because that is going to be the other part of this exercise. We are going to exercise your attention span. In fact, if I have time to ramble, we will ramble about attention span in an age of social media and cell phones literally destroying our attention span. I think this episode will benefit you fellas. Now, some guys are already Xing out. They're probably belligerent. Unfortunately, I think that's going to be their loss. Not only will they miss the tactics and the correct army composition here for Battania, but their attention span just got lower, right? So those of you who want to improve your brain, improve your tactics, and learn what I feel is the correct Battanian army composition, stick around. Now, I actually don't recognize this battlefield, which is good. We're going to do some random shit. We're going to do some random villages and do the best we can. Now, our army makeup, as far as the divisions, is going to be very similar. We're going to use these nasty falksmen. We do have about 50 falksmen in the army, give or take, depending on how much infantry we have. We're going to have some skirmishers in the 6th division. So the 1st division will be defensive infantry, the 3rd will be shock troops, and the 6th will be skirmishers. I will probably keep that the same for all the battles. I always recommend you guys do that. That way your fingers know when you hit a certain button what division you're talking about. You can't afford to look down most of the time in battle. Now, I think a ring defense makes sense here. We have this rock. I didn't see for sure, but it looked like Valandia had a lot of cavalry against us. Of course, we'll try different scenarios. Maybe we'll give them more archers or more crossbow or whatever, more infantry. It's going to be somewhat random. I'm just going to crank through these, and these will be largely unedited, unbroken, unabridged. That way, your attention span gets longer. We're not going to speed through these. I don't have the RTS mod. I anticipate 7, 8, 9 battles over the course of about an hour. So if you want to lengthen your attention span, learn some Battanian tactics, and what I feel is the correct army composition, strap yourself in. All right, so 5th Corps, a weaker archery line over there. Now let's do the 4th, 6th, and 7th. So the 4th is our stronger of the 2 archer divisions. We're almost always going to have more than 1 archer division. The 7th is Javcav. You get that by selecting that little javelin thing. And then the 6th is mostly skirmishers. Now, unfortunately, it does mix in the dipshit Oathsworn. There's no way around that, right? They're just going to be mixed in there. That's okay. The good news is our 1st division can also throw javelins. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of a charge there is because the charges are different with the 1.32. In a way, of course, this is a learning process for me, although obviously we've got the experience to handle most of these situations. Now, got to fix this already. These guys are trying to form a circle and they're stuck by our square. So I'm just going to move the square to the side. And throughout the course of these battles, I'll try to give you guys little tips like that. Put those guys back in there. Who the hell's being shot and from where? I swear I heard guys getting shot. Yeah, there's crossbow bolts flying in from hundreds of yards away. Now it is a bug. We've lost the distancing thing on the bottom of the icons. That is something that Tail Worlds is aware of. This is, after all, still a beta. They're not releasing this, and they are coming in fucking hot. Okay, so the cavalry's coming in fast. We might even square our 6th here. This is good though, right? They're going to charge that circle, charge these lines, and now our shock troops can charge into there. That cav line did a pretty good job intercepting. The shock troops you want to have protected by that circle, but then charge once the enemy's close, right? It's devastating, as you can tell from the death spam. Now our best archers are back here with a great view of everything. I'm going to actually take these guys off their horse. A lot of times when you have a cav division getting mauled by enemy cavalry, you're better off getting them off their horse, because so suddenly the enemy can't see them. They're kind of tucked in with all the carcasses of the horses and the detritus of battle. Now I am going to fight, but if I get knocked unconscious in any of these, we're fucked. So you're going to mostly see me hold up my shield here and focus on tactics. The skirmishers are charging. So far, so good. It's a little messy, and I like to reset units once in a while and pick off a target here and there. Oh, fucker blocked pretty well. Now, what are some of the obvious advantages, right? Battania has the most ammo in the game. If you didn't know that, their archers have the most. That's all there is to it. We don't have any Fiend champs, but the rest of their units are very tough. And what I mean is the rest of their archers are very tough. We still have Fiends, the tier 5 archer, and they're good enough. But it's these shock troops I anticipate making a huge impact here. Now there's a huge maelstrom of different units fighting in there, and I want our 3rd division to kind of blindside the enemy. So I'm pushing our skirmishers up. They're fighting our infantry there. Let's charge. Let's send these 3rd division boys in there. These guys here are in the conversation for the best infantry in the game. The veteran Falksmen are incredibly lethal now. They're unbelievably lethal, and that will be one of the focuses of this episode. Now our archers are still safe, and even though our infantry here is kind of being ganged up on, getting killed, there's a lot of good death spam, right? Of course, obviously, when you're playing Battania, your archers are going to be doing the work. Maybe a couple of these scenarios we'll try with 10 or 20% archers. However, every single guy watching this knows that a good portion of our army is going to be Battanians, right? Is going to be archers. I would say minimum 30%, and probably a lot more than that is optimal. For the people who say, well, you're just spamming Fiend champs. No, we're not. We don't have any. It's all Fiends and below. Imagine if we had Fiend champs, right? It'd be a wrecking ball. And that's one way to get good at Bannerlord, of course, is to give yourself handicaps. Suddenly, when you have the full army, you're devastatingly powerful. All right, so I do have a shield wall line of skirmishers that survived all that, and I'm moving our archers up here, but this battle's over. I'm going to actually show you what you can do here to minimize casualties, form that infantry skirmisher line into a square, and then simply move them left and right. Almost like a magic trick. The enemy gets spellbound by the square, sleight of hand, we shoot him with 50,000 arrows, and the enemy gets scorched. Now I'm moving them closer to start, that way that our archers are even closer, doing even more damage, then you move them away. You effectively zigzag that square. Now all of those archers' backs are exposed to these archers. Talk about savage. And of course, they just get mass exterminated. Look at this. This is that square I said that might survive. That's amazing. That was the square that I dismounted. It worked, right? Those guys survived. They got off their horses and formed a little square in the maelstrom of all those banner knights, and they made it. I love little tidbits like that. That's basically the hint to recap that is if your cavalry is getting charged and attacked by a huge amount of cavalry, you can call it an exploit if you want, but I recommend you dismount and square those infantrymen, right? So they're basically hunkering below the fray. And I guess you call this success, right? We smashed the pieces out of this army that's 40% larger than us and has banner knights. And we just completely ripped them a new one. All right, let's do attacker. We're going to just hit the random dial here. Of course, I don't actually have a random thing. I'm just kind of kicking out different things here. And let's spin the wheel here, right? We'll just, sure, that's fine. East of Glannis Plains. We're the attackers, so we're going to have to go to them. This will be interesting. Now, I did give us more archers there, but again, we are going to organically / slightly intentionally migrate to what I feel is the optimal Battanian army. Now, I'm not going to talk about individual units in this episode. In other words, I'm not going to say, oh, I prefer the veteran Falksman over the wildling or something like that. At some point or other, we will cover that more extensively. In fact, I have in other episodes. Here today, we're just going to talk about what's the correct percentages of skirmishers, right? Do you want, or infantry, do you want 20% or 50%, right? Battanian infantry is now pretty tough. Maybe you want 50%, 60%, right? We will explore. All right. So I've got the same divisions here, 1st, 3rd, and 6th, and I'd like to inspect them before each battle to make sure that the guys are in the right position. Shock troops in the 3rd, skirmishers in the 6th, and defensive infantry in that 1st. Roughly equal sized divisions. Now we're going to start uphill because the enemy's going to be defensive here. We're the attacker of this battle, and we want to sweep through the high spot of this elevation. Anytime you can take the high ground in a situation like this, you want to take it. So we'll figure out where they're making sort of their defensive formations here, and then we'll come up with a plan once we see what they're doing. They've got a massive amount of cavalry, 208 cavalry. Let's see if we can't get up some height on this ridge. Wait a minute. These fuckers aren't. I swore I hit attacker. They're coming in hot. Okay, oh shit. All right, let's form defensive lines here. Infantry in short lines towards the front. Let's get the archers up the hill. At least their cavalry's coming in hot. I swear we were the attacker. Maybe I misclicked it. Let's form defensive lines. Of course, the heaviest infantry towards the front, cavalry and shield walls towards the front. And let's get those shock troops. Shit, let's get these archers. Nice little blind flank right here. Blind flank where their enemy archers can't see, enemy crossbow can't see. Fuck, they're just plowing into our lines. All right, 1st and 3rd can charge. Let's get the skirmishers up on top of the hill, the 4th Corps behind us. Well, and this is what I mean, tactical improv. The enemy here is doing shit I did not expect. But look at our position, right? We now have skirmishers and an archer division above all this maelstrom. Shock troops are charging. That looks good. The skirmishers are raining in javelins. I like that. And behind me is this best archer division, the 4th Corps. So I guess what's happening here is the enemy thinks they have 50% more troops. Charge. To hell with defense, right? The enemy's like, we don't need to play defensive. We've got the best troops. In we go. So sort of defeats the purpose. I was going to have some defensive battles for this series. Unless I selected attackers. I don't know. I swore I selected, or unless I didn't select attackers, I swore I selected attackers. But anyways, things are going good, right? We've got them swarmed in the middle. Our infantry's going crazy on their cavalry. That is still the best way to kill cavalry. Have a bunch of infantry just go crazy on them. Have your units compacted like that. And then, of course, archers in nice, relatively safe positions. Numero uno, right? Keep those archers safe when you're playing Battania. They're tough, right? Everybody's like, oh, my fiends can fight. They do melee just fine. Yeah, but why would you do that when you can just shoot the enemy full of arrows, right? Archers are absolutely lethal, and Bannerlord take advantage of it. Now, our infantry's mostly destroyed. There was a huge rush. In fact, more infantry's pushing in here, but look at our position, right? In fact, let's get them higher. Our archers are purposefully in very different positions, and that is because these divisions right here, the skirmisher division that I just squared, and that archer division is protected by the other archer division. It's concentric defense. These skirmishers here, we can square right in front of the enemy. And look at what the enemy's dealing with, right? They're dealing with crossfire from the 4th Corps. We can move the 5th Corps a little higher. And what is happening down there? I think those troops are routing. There's a whole bunch of troops running sideways down there. That guy's routing. These guys are chasing the skirmishers. That's never going to work. They're getting torched. And now all we have to deal with is a bunch of crossbow. It's still a threat, right? We're going to have to use this infantry square because there's a lot of them. And they will hold up those big barn door pavie shields here eventually, but we got this battle, right? We've got a nice infantry division still, and most importantly, we've got our archers, right? These guys are tucked in. They got elevation. The enemy's coming to us inexplicably. We'll make sure that we set future battles like this to attacker. I would assume that this is on. I thought I clicked attacker. And look at the arrow fire, right? Your fiends are going to work. I'm not sure what these guys are doing. They're running sideways. And this battle's over. Well, that was a good example of improv, right? I was all geared up strategically to barrel in on the enemy. The next thing I know, their banner knights were roaring forward. And that is a big change, right? I'll mention it here. With 1.32, cavalry move very, very fast. And if you're not ready for them, they will liquidate your forces. The keys to surviving a cavalry charge like that. Number one, concentration. Pull all your units together in a very tight mass, right? Make it hard for the enemy cavalry to spear them and keep moving. Second, make sure that you've got some nasty infantry in there poking the enemy back, right? If you've got some falxmen, when the enemy hits your big mass of troops, have them charge, and that'll decimate the enemy. Now, this battle's dragging a little bit here. In fact, this is really interesting. Troops that routed are coming back to the battlefield. I swear that's what's going on there. We have 400 troops. The enemy has 400 troops, so there will be no reinforcements in these battles. These guys are definitely coming back to fight. And now they just changed their mind again. I don't care. Yeah, well, good decision there, doofus. You guys are destroyed. All right, so we could charge here, but it's better to just square, right? If you have 30, 40 infantry and you have archers left, just square them, right? If this battle is closer, this would be a game-saving, a battle-saving tactic. Square your guys, move it left and right. If it's a long ways away, move it towards your archers first, and then once it's maybe 50 meters, move it left and right, and the enemy gets flayed chasing it. By the way, of course, if their crossbow come at your archers instead of your square, charge. Have your 6th division, the infantry that was in the square, charge behind the enemy. It's checkmate. Doesn't matter what they do. And these guys are shot to pieces by fiend champs, and your attention span's getting longer already. What prompted this? Well, I just read about a 30-minute article, really high-end article written by a PhD, and she was talking extensively about studies on attention span over the years, how things have changed. We were on attacker, so they just were like, to hell with defense. They may do it again here. Let's see. I'm just trying to do a random village. Here we go. And she said everything from commercials to the lengths of how long they hold a scene in a movie has changed dramatically. And the question is, of course, is it chicken before the egg, right? Is it the scenes in movies and phones and commercials that are lowering our attention span? Or is our attention span causing the people who make those things, including the little shorts on YouTube where they put one word at a time? That's a psychological trick, right? Because you're forced to read one word at a time and your brain is like a dog lapping up water trying to get enough, right? These are all mental tricks that the fuckers are doing with us. And we've got a nice funnel here. I don't know this village very well, but we've got a nice little funnel area here. And I gave us more cavalry than normal, right? Again, we're doing a little random element. Is it better to have a bunch of cavalry with Battania? Well, if I'm perfectly honest, the answer is typically no, because their cavalry is bad. The scout is probably the worst unit in the game, the worst, pound for pound unit. It's a tier 4 cavalrymen, and they are absolutely garbage, dumpster fire bad. They're so bad. But we can square them, right? We can use them defensively. And think about it in a village like this. If the enemy has a bunch of cavalry, which I think I gave them a bunch of cavalry, I wasn't looking very closely. My attention span was elsewhere. I think they're going to be bottled up here pretty good in that center because, again, we can use our cavalry, and that trick I just showed you will dismount them, like right as the enemy's getting towards them. The horses get in the enemy's way, the fiend champs, or the fiends, I guess we don't have fiend champs work. The 7th division is actually Jav Cav. So I've got 2 different Cav divisions here, the 2nd and 8th, that are defensive. The skirmishers look good, even though there's some Poles in there. I don't mean Polish people, right? We like you Poles. 1st, 3rd, 6th. We need more in the 6th. Let's boost that up. But we have 3 Cav divisions, and that's because I want that Jav Cav for later in the battle. That is the best cav unit that the Battanians have. The horseman is not very good. They're tier 5, but their, mounted skirmisher is excellent. All right. We'll split our archers up here at some point. Let's see what the enemy's doing here. I think this is going to work. We're going to jam the fuck out of the middle of this village. First, let's make sure they're coming to us, right? We don't want to dismount our guys here. Let's pull up in a defensive formation, and then we'll observe the enemy behavior. If you dismount all your guys from their horses and then the enemy goes defensive, that's a problem. Make sure they're committed. And I can't really tell right now. All right, let's jam up all these little village pathways and shit here. Let's just put the 8th Corps right there, kind of utilizing all those little fences and whatnot that's already there. We're going to basically try to clog the shit out of the center here, pound it with ranged units, pound it with skirmishers, charge with our shock troops. 2nd, 8th. We're going to have at least 3 defensive divisions. And this is, you know, a concept, of course, that most on the channel are familiar with, but many new players are not. Defensive units. What the fuck, defensive units? Well, think about it for like a sport, right? You don't have, in a soccer game, what is it, 9 or 10 guys on the field? You don't have 10 guys down there trying to score a goal. You have 6, 7. And then you got 2 or 3 defenders and a goalie. In battle, you want to have the same thing. All right, they are charging, right? So let's dismount. These guys right here, this 2nd division. No, get off. Right, and that minimizes casualties. And now we got a nice little infantry square there. I didn't mean to get off my horse. And let's put this square right here at this little hobbit hole, right? This little door looks like Bilbo's door to his little hobbit hole. The 1st division, 6th division. There's a lot of javelins in here, right? So we're going to have these guys unload. I can also pull this 7th division, this horse cav division up so that they're dumping. Actually, let's put them right here behind the 6th. 6th and 7th have tons of javelins, and they can just dump javelins into the enemy as they approach. Let's keep moving that 2nd, right into view of all our archers and skirmishers. And the enemy gets torched so far. There's a fuck ton of troops coming now. Now this battle, they have a lot of infantry. I can't remember how many I gave them, but they have 266 on the battlefield. That is a lot. That's probably the most we'll face in any of these challenges. I must have given them 50 or 60%. All right, let's have another square here. Our shock troops, I'm keeping back for just a bit, right? They're throwing weapons, but I want the enemy distracted by these squares. Let's have the 7th Division charge. Got our squares in there, wedging the shit out of it. Now I have 2 squares that are in the middle there, and I just charged with the shock troops. Might have been a little early. Let's move Archer Division over here too. Let's separate them. Man, their cavalry's getting through. And we may lose some of these, right? I should have said that earlier. Some of these we're going to fight in bad situations or with awkward armies. And of course, it's important to remember, we're outnumbered by 50%, and the enemy has better troops. We don't have any Battanian field champs. They just destroyed that infantry division. Well, our other squares in there absorbing attention, and our archers are raking, right? Our archers are the key. So far, so good on them, right? We can help around the margin here. The 5th Corps is kind of getting attacked. We do a little bit of kiting, but our 4th Corps, the MVPs of this army, just machine gunning that concentrated enemy force. And they're concentrated because they're attacking those 2 squares. I can't even see our forces in there, but they're in there because the AI is still trying to attack them. And the enemy's being melted attacking that square. All you hear is the enemy screaming. We can't stop them routing. This 5th Division charge. The reason I charge there is if you got guys you're not sure if they have line of sight, charging makes sure they have line of sight. Anybody who can't see, you tell him to charge, he'll at least move forward till he can shoot. Let's square this. Oh shit, I have 7, 10. I have like nothing but archers. I've got like 15 troops besides the archers, but I think that might be enough. We can, let's see. Let's just hold the line here with these 17, 18 guys. Just absorb some attention there, dipshits. Get shot for our cause. Look at that sergeant's all crumpled up. That's like the analogy, or the if you want to symbolize what's been happening so far with Battania here. Now I'm bringing the 4th over because I want to protect our best archers from getting shot, right? The 5th is still shooting. They're kind of getting some cover fire, and I'm pulling these guys behind the protection of that building because we are getting shot a lot, right? We're actually suffering a lot of casualties. This also gives us good crossfire, right? Now our 5th archers are shooting the enemy on the flank, while this 4th division is more protected from archers, right? We're still getting shot over here, but it also looks like a lot of the Valandians are out of ammo. Again, we mentioned that before. Huge advantage for Battania here. Battania has the most ammo in the game. As the enemy gets destroyed here. Now, you could charge here, but I would prefer you just held ground with your archers and let your 5th Corps work. Those guys have great enfilade fire. I can help a little bit here, and this battle's over, right? The AI just routed. We can't stop them. They've still got a few dipshits. I didn't kill you yet. They've still got a few dipshits coming in. Half of them are routing and half are trying to move forward. That's not going to go good for you. It's like America's COVID response. Let's let half of us all wear masks for fucking weeks on end, and the rest of us don't do anything. I'm sure that'll collectively work, right? A house divided never stands. And that's that. All right, 3 for 3. Bring it, you Valandian bitches. Now, we'll do some other kingdoms here. And massive kill ratios for everything, right? We're not just winning these battles, we're blowing the enemy out. So again, an exercise for your brain. You guys are being very patient. You guys, I approve. You guys are strengthening your brain. By the way, I think long term, they will be tying Alzheimer's, early set Alzheimer's, to people who have low attention span. There's all kinds of negative consequences to low attention span. Of course, the article covered that. A big one is simply health. Every time your brain bounces from subject to subject to subject, you get a physiological negative response. If you're not familiar with that term, as we select another random village here and we'll take on the sturgeons, a physiological effect means that your body physically changes, like your heart rate changes, your breathing changes. And they tested people that when their attention span switched between subjects, in other words, people with a low attention span, squirrel, they had a physiological change to their body, and it had to do with stress. That's bad. That's very bad. That means effectively what we're doing by lowering our attention span is causing more stress, i.e. more heart attacks, more strokes. I'm an EMT, we understand, the body pretty well. We understand diseases, especially the bad ones like strokes and heart attacks and CVAs and stuff like that. And these things are likely going to get worse as our attention span gets better. So in no small part, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm saving lives by deliberately playing this episode today. You guys are literally going to live longer than those poor sops who X'd out about 20 minutes ago because I was rambling too much, right? These guys say I ramble too much. Understand, right? You guys free to do what you want. And the guys that want someone who rambles less, I'm sure there's a lot of very short attention span YouTube channels out there. I'm going to continue to do what I feel is right. All right, so this village I have never fought on. I don't know what the fuck we're dealing with here. It's extremely compacted. I don't like it. It's going to be very difficult to kite, next to impossible to kite, but we'll do the best we can here. We have Battania, right? So you always have a chance. Anybody who watches the channel knows that I felt before the improvement to the veteran Falxman that the Battanians were the best kingdom in the game. Now they're even better. I should clarify that too, because a lot of guys, of course, play them and they don't have a good time. Battania takes the most intellect to play. If you have tactics, if you use the wildlings and separate their infantry and use their nasty Jav Cav and their other Cav as defensive units, it's totally dominant. If you're an F1, F3 type, and I imagine very few of the guys watching at this stage are, Battania is probably not for you, right? You're better off playing Khazate or some other kingdom that charges pretty well. I imagine Valandia probably charges pretty well. Very few skirmishers, lots of heavy hitting cavalry and infantry. All right, so we still don't have our distant measure here. I'm kind of trying to guard this left flank because I don't know how the enemy's even going to get to us. Are they going to come up here or are they going to approach us on a flank? Now we're going to use one of these little huts again. I love using the natural protection that villages or any other landscape provides. Our skirmishers here are way too bound up, but for the short term, it's okay, right? I just want these guys ready to go if we need to deploy them and have them kind of in a line here. Now, I got the 4th Corps right here, and on the side over there is the 2nd and 3rd. You'll hear me say that a lot. Of course, friends on the channel know that I marry the 2nd and 3rd. That tactic combination is called shield and shock, and it perfectly it's synergy, it's symbiosis, I think is the scientific word, where organisms help each other, right? They're positive for both each other. The cavalrymen by themselves are kind of weak, and the shock troops by themselves get shot to death or stabbed by cavalry, but you put them together, and the cavalrymen have protection from the shock troops, and the shock troops then protect the cavalry, and the cavalrymen protect the shock troops from being stabbed and shot. It's amazing symbiosis. And of course, it's perfect for Battania. Now here, I don't see any flank coming, so I'm just going to move the cav up and wave this little square in their face like we've been doing. I see some cavalry coming around the flank, but not very many. And I am wary that the sturgeons have a lot of Jav Cav. There's no easier way to have your shock troops killed than to leave them unalone against Jav Cav. cavalry that throw javelins immolates shock troops. Absolutely lays waste to them, unless they have a cav division to protect them, right? And I'm getting stuck. There's all these fucking little garden rock walls. I guess my horse is not very athletic, but we've got a pretty good funnel set up here. And even though we're suffering some losses, we've got a lot of divisions, a lot of reserves still for the rest of this battle. I've got the 7th Division now dismounted. That's our Jav Cav Division. Again, like the previous battle, we're using 3 different cav lines. Alright, looks good. There's a nice little funnel. Of course, archers key. I'm starting to see more archers come around our left side, or excuse me, cavalry. That's making me nervous. Let's see here. Let's pull this dismounted cav back here. We've got these skirmishers here. I've got the 3rd Division, but I'm really worried about the enemy starting to sweep through with cavalry and dump javelins on us. We've got a square at the front. These kind of battles, what the fuck? Oh, especially when you hit that button, go away text button. These kind of battles are the hardest to improvise because I have no experience here, don't know where the enemy's going to come from. They are circling us with cav. We have to prioritize this. All right, let's bring the 2nd and 3rd over here and just cut off this circle attempt, right? They want to get around on us to circle and get into our archers. Fuck no. Let's get that 2nd Division over here in a square, and we're going to charge these bitches with shock troops. But I want them where I am, right? Where I'm here just bottling these guys up. Get over here. Archers are shooting them. Get over here. There's tons of cavalry for you to kill. They sound like they're from Wales. Boy, you bastard! Kill them! Okay, that looks good. We've got a maelstrom of different units. What did I say before? How do you defeat cavalry? Jam up the highway, right? Now it's starting to get bloody. It's starting to get a little messy. I'm getting a little nervous, but I still got that square. It looks good. The 2nd and 3rd are over there. The cavalry's kind of rampaging through, but at least it's like 5 instead of 55. The enemy has a lot of archers here. 214 archers. So we're going to put some shield walls out in front, right? Try to absorb some of those arrows. 7th Division is there. This is that horse cav division. Oh, shit. The 5th Corps here is tucked in beautifully. They've got a nice little barn to shoot around. The 4th Corps, our best archers, are dead center, and that's what you want, right? They're the ones killing everything. Let's keep pushing those guys forward. Man, that's a lot of bad deaths, man. Part of it's our infantry division is getting surrounded. These guys are getting killed over here, too. Look at this little tiny square. These guys are still holding out. It's so awesome. Hold on tight, boys. And have our cavalry or archers charge here. Sometimes this is the answer, right? You're charging archers, obliterate cavalry. Better than have them shoot and then you have them reset, right? Pull them back, spread, fire. 5th Division. We're getting close to the point where we have to charge. The enemy has more archers than us, and we may be getting low on ammo. This has been a long battle. In fact, the 2nd Division is still pushing in, but they're hitting our square. I like to charge with the archers here again. Occasionally charge, and what they do is they move up till they can shoot. If guys are behind a tree, 10 guys are behind a tree in this situation, you charge, all 10 guys are shooting seconds later. Little, very valuable tip. If you just leave them there, they'll sit right behind the tree and not shoot at all. But if you have them charge, they will usually get to a position where they can shoot. 156. Let's start moving forward here. Got this division 66. We got a little square line here still. We've got the 7th Corps. God, those guys are getting flayed though too. The enemy will be low on ammo here soon. I can push up here, maybe knock a few guys around. But of course, if I get killed here, this battle may go sideways. I gotta pee like a fucking racehorse too. I'm sure TMI, you guys are like, I didn't need to hear that. Now we're hiding for our life here. Push forward, boys. Come on, boys. Looks good, looks good. Yeah, and our archers do the rest, right? We've got our shield walls protecting. These guys can move forward. They killed my fucking horse. Let's get these guys pushed forward. I'll push in with them, and this battle is over. Blah. That's what I would sound like if I got shot with an arrow. I always figured I'd be like that guy that said bleh as it hits you in the lung. All right, beautiful. Success. I got to take a little break. And let's do some more of this shit. Hopefully I haven't lost you guys yet. Hopefully your attention span is still present. By the way, in case you guys didn't notice, a lot of you may have. I can't have ads in this episode, right? I deliberately turned ads off because what kind of an example is that, right? If I'm trying to help you guys improve your concentration, improve your memory, improve your focus, and then every 6 minutes you get blasted with a commercial ad. So that's right. I'm making no money on this episode. That's how much I love you fellas. We're going to teach you some tactics here for free. I got to pee like a racehorse, but that is just something else I've done here for you fellas. We're doing free 99 tactics today. Okay, much better. All right, let's do some Battania versus Imperial tactics now. And again, we'll stick with our somewhat random theme here. The Imperials have tier 3 through 6. Let's see, we better change from that village. And again, just do random shit here. Let's just click a button here, click a button over here, something like that. A bunch of horse archers, something, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Again, if we lose these, we lose these, right? It's fine. We'll be the attacker. And let's change it. Let's just make it a random battlefield. Let's just roll with this one here. And obviously, this is not a recommended army composition for the Battanians. Let's see what we can do here with their terrible cavalry. We have almost 70% cavalry with Battania, which is a lot of people's nightmare. All these dreadful Battanian scouts. Let's see. So the enemy has a lot of horse archer, so we're definitely going to try to go horse archer hunting early in this episode, and we set ourselves as the attackers. So it'll be interesting to see if they take a defensive approach or they come roaring at us like they have before because they outnumber us so badly. I'm going to do, let's do an attacking, a defensive, and a javelin division of cavalry. Obviously, you have to get really creative with tactics under a situation like this. Now, when would you ever be in a situation like this? Almost never. This is definitely exhibition. You would have to have a strange army composition to have a battle like this. These type of exhibitions, though, these type of practice demos are really what help, I think, a lot of people get better at combat in Bannerlord. You understand the system. You learn units' strengths and weaknesses. You learn, out of the way there, dude. You learn tendencies of units. So almost to certainty, the horse archers are still going to approach us, even though we're the attacker. That is just the nature of the AI. The AI cannot help itself with horse archers. But in this case, it has a chance to succeed. They have so many. They're definitely going to be able to fire a lot of arrows. So what are we going to do about it, right? We're going to present a wall of shields. I've got the 3rd Division, which is attacking cavalry, sent to the furthest side of the map. We're going to move up on them here with cavalry and infantry, bring that 3rd Division over, and hopefully we can slide in behind here our Jav Cav, right? Jav Cav decimate horse archers. It's probably one of the biggest lopsided matchups in the game, and it helps that our archers are shooting, right? The enemy has, of course, decided to take on our whole army with this horse archer army. Not advised, right? And we have our 6th Division going to slide beautifully behind them. Now the 3rd Division is up here charging. I can't hit shit with my spear, but that's not going to matter, right? This skirmisher division just unloaded 100 javelins and the screen flushed with green. Now they're dumping the rest of them. And these horse archers could not be in a worse meat grinder than this. They're surrounded by cavalry telling them that they're dead. Javelins are flying. The archers are still killing, of course, because there's no, because there's no friendly fire, and the rest of the forces are coming in here. So that'll happen a lot of times in a battle like this. That's another mechanic that it's good for fellas to know. If the enemy's defensive initially against you and you inflict major damage, they will shift to offense. Basically, the AI says, oh shit, that's not working. Let's F1, F3. It basically freaks out and charges. Form a little line here. We've got a bit of a reverse slope decline. If they continue to push in, it's going to work beautifully right at the edge of the ridge here, and that's a good kill ratio to start the battle. We had 30 casualties and destroyed their horse archers. And this battle is not in the bag yet, but it's looking mighty good. We still have no infantry, right? We have literally like 12 dudes here. Now let's try a big cav charge, right? Fuck it. We'll do it live, as Bill Riley once ignominiously said. Let's bring this 6th Division up too. Look at this infantry just walking right into a savage flank here. We'll hold the center. Archers are raking. And now this 6th Division can just dump javelins. Now they're low on javelins. Maybe they have 1, maybe they have 2. This is why you want to hold fire. Don't have them all dumped against the horse archers. Nice little flush there, even though half of them, it looks like they threw it right into the ground. Not sure what that's all about. All right, so let's try a monstrous cav charge here, right? Cav has improved, so this has got a much better chance of working than it used to. We've got a blind flanking charge here on a whole bunch of archers. Form our cavalry into a wedge and bore right in, right? And look at that. That is beautiful. Kill them, boys. That should work. And a few deaths, but not very good. And, well, there's your Battanian scout and horsemen and whatnot. The Battanians definitely have the worst cavalry in the game. It's amazing, actually, how bad their cavalry is. Their Jav Cav is good, right? We already demonstrated that in this battle, but that was astonishing how weak that Cav charge was. I mean, we blasted their archers from the side with a full charge by our best archers, and maybe we got a handful of kills, maybe less. Now our cavalry's just getting butchered out in the open, shot to pieces. We're getting charged here on this square, and this battle all of a sudden is close. This is a battle I felt we had in hand, man. All right, let's charge there. We've got a handful of infantry still. We've got a bit of a reverse slope to climb, but the enemy's archer line is so wide that it spans the whole valley. We can't really hide behind this ridge very well. I'm gonna have to do a little fighting here. I don't want to lose this battle, man. Come on, boys, fight. Now, I realize already I made a mistake, and you guys may also have noticed. Of course, partly it was an experiment. Come on, baby. Don't die. Oh, shit. Don't die. Don't die. Okay. Well, we got no health now. I shouldn't have charged there. That was a bit of an experiment. You know what I should have done, right? The tacticians, you guys all know what I should have done. Brought that cav over here, dismounted him, turned him into infantry for our archers to work with, and then exterminated these archers. That cav charge, you know, I was hoping it would just flush the screen green and the enemy would rout and we'd all go fuck the prom queen, but obviously that didn't happen. We've lost this battle now. My character's got no health. I can hardly even get in here, kill a guy or 3 before I get waxed. And yeah, you know, we're gonna do these and narrate these lives. So sometimes you're gonna see us fail, and you guys see, right, the mistake. There's no question. Now, a couple things here, right? That's about the worst army composition you can make. Look how badly the scouts did. Not even a 1-to-2 kill ratio, even though we put them in good position to work. The Battanian horsemen's less than a 1-to-1 kill ratio, even though they're tier 5. I'll remind you, there are tier 3 through 6 units on the battlefield, so your tier 5 units should do really well. But we failed tactically. We should have just, you know, used our Battanian. I mean, we know better. The Battanian cavalry just suck. I should have used them defensively there. Oh well, we move on, right? The purpose of this is not to win every battle, but to do tactics and talk about army composition. There's a hint. You don't want 70% Battanian horsemen, just in case, you know, that was your grand plan to conquer the map of Cal Radius, 70% horsemen. I don't advise that. All right, let's just choose a random battlefield. I don't even know. Set this wood. I don't really want to fight in the wood. And we're not in the wood. And it's actually a pretty dreamy battlefield. Anytime you have water, it looks like deep water. Maybe even we can swim in it. There's a ridge up here with all kinds of peekaboo ridges. This just gives me a wet dream as a tactician. Like you absolutely can do whatever you want with this battlefield. There's naked flanks. There's water. There's protected slopes. It's pretty sick. All right, let's get some revenge here, fucking asshole Imperials. Can't remember exactly what army composition we gave them. Doesn't matter too much. We have a lot of cavalry again, which is fine. We're just, again, I'm going to just crank random numbers for a lot of these. We are working our way to what I consider is the optimal Battanian army. Most of you guys could probably guess, right? I'm not gonna mention it yet, but most of you guys probably have a pretty good idea of what the optimal Battanian army is as far as percentage of cavalry, archers, and infantry. And it's not this, right? It's not 35-40% cavalry. That is for sure. I would say the only kingdom that really makes sense with is Valandia, where their heavy cavalry is now pretty good, right? They come in, a lot of them couch lance. Try it with 1.32. Do a practice menu and have them hit the archers. That would have been a very different result with banner knights and stuff like that. Of course, the Battanians have weak cavalry. All right, that bank is perfect, right? Here we are defensive, I think. Pretty sure. So the enemy will have to come to us. Their horse archers are already volunteering to die. This water might be so deep that you can swim. So swimming is coming. You guys are aware of this with the DLC, or maybe you're not aware of it. Now you are. You can swim in the DLC, and more accurately, the rumor is you're going to get knocked off your boat in a big battle against the Vikings and have to swim back onto the boat, which is a really cool idea. Whether or not they, whether or not they can implement it well is to be seen. What am I stuck on here? Out of the way. I'm gonna get trapped here if I'm not careful. Tons of horse archers are coming up, but we've got just the medicine for what ails us here, right? We'll send the third. Where's the third? Sixth is with me here. Oh shit, the third is with me here. Let's take both these divisions with us. We'll just trap these boys again. In fact, they're heading kind of towards the water. If we can get a lot of the horse archers in the water, this can be a replicate of that last battle, and they are. They're just herded right into the valley. There's a natural little funnel here. This is a beautiful battlefield. I mean, we're not just going to win this battle. We're going to smash the enemy. All right, bring these cavalry behind. The second division can come towards them and sort of pinch them. The archers are raking. The horse archers are moving slowly because they're in the water. Here come the javelins. The third division can clamp in, give them hell in this terrible voice. Give them hell! The guy just sounds, I mean, you're not inspiring a lot of success with that kind of voice. The rest of their forces are pushing up, but all they're going to find are dead horse archers here. Again, the javelins are flying. Got a little stall there, and the enemy's just liquidated again. I mean, these guys are pulverized. the river's packed with with horses with no riders. And now let's pull our units through here. First, second, sixth. The fourth and fifth are right here. Now we've got to see what else the enemy has. I mean, this is just like the last battle. Now we got to make sure we don't botch the second part. I don't think we're gonna. First of all, we actually have a real army, right? We have some infantry to work with. We have some archers. We didn't even have hardly any archers last battle. This battle, we have it all. And this is actually a pretty good setup here for heavy cavalry because the archers and the infantry are going to charge through this funnel. We'll be able to dump a whole bunch of more javelins into them. The second division can cover this side over here. They got some cavalry kind of moving up. And water is your friend against cavalry charges, right? When the enemy's coming in, you actually want to be in the water because it slows down their cavalry charge. Your infantry are actually better off being in the water if you're defending. Of course, if you're attacking, it's the opposite. Here comes their cavalry. Actually, they're probably going to attack us up on this bank. That's okay. Either one of those is okay. They've got two different cav wings, and their archers, or infantry, are being skewered. Now, these guys are stuck. I keep trying to get them unstuck. I wanted to make a defensive line there, but the AI is having a hard time with the pathfinding. Look at our infantry just letting fly axes and javelins to a slowed enemy. I mean, they are in a horrific situation. Now, this is an opportunity here on the right. We can isolate that cav division on the right and destroy it. Send in heavy cav first, our elite horsemen, and then behind him the jav cav to eliminate him. Just by sheer numbers, those boys should be able to win. They outnumber the enemy 2-1. Now their infantry is getting close to our edge here, and they're all starting to look like hedgehogs, full of arrows. We're going to have to start kiting, but we've got uphill to kite. Behind them, we can send the infantry division, and this just is a massacre here. Nothing the enemy does is going to help them. They're being completely scorched. We do have some cavalry running through, but it's of negligible danger. We're eliminating the cav on that right side. And this is certainly revenge from that last loss. This is an ass whipping here. Here comes our infantry. Now we can charge with this 4th Division. Anytime the enemy's reeling, I like to charge in this situation. All your guys come up, your fiends swinging their 2-handed axes, and they will make everything rout. Then you can tell them to shoot and charge, and they'll whip that bow out again. It's a pretty good combo. All right, so let's flatten the rest of their archers. They're like down in the marsh here, so let's go ahead and truck them here with cavalry. And this was a textbook ass whipping. I mean, I'm looking up at the power bar. Maybe we've lost 100 troops. Maybe. The screen is just fizzing green, and they're going to rout too. So, you know, even with lots of cavalry, still highly successful in this situation. Now, this is an optimal battlefield. And 55 casualties. That's sick. Outnumbered by 50%, and they have better troops. We have no Fiend champs, I'll remind you of that, and smashed them to pieces here. 10-to-1 kill ratio. With Fiend champs, it might have been a 20-to-1 kill ratio, right? We might have shot, we might have had 20 casualties or something insane. All right, let's see what else we can do here. Some more random shit. I'm trying to, it's half random, and I'm half like, all right, we should do at least one battle where we are in a village. We should do at least one battle where we have lots of cavalry, or lots of infantry rather. You know, so it's half random here. I'm sort of in my head like, well, we want it to be random, but I don't want to show you the exact same thing over and over again. There's no way to hit the randomize button here without it changing the kingdoms. That little randomize button down there, unfortunately, it'll also change your kingdoms and the troops. I don't want that. Now, let's see what the sergeant does here. Although, you know, you guys are being super patient, super deliberate, but you don't need to be that deliberate, right? You don't need to wait 10 minutes for us to run over there with the sergeant just to watch them bungle this battle. So, let's go ahead and just back out here. I was going to show you basically how badly outnumbered and how badly situated we are with this army, but I don't need to. You guys know this already, right? The enemy outnumbers us by 50% and they have better units. All right, let's see. How do we do this? I'm going to set up our units here, but I'm probably going to do some editing because I don't know if you could tell, the enemy's a long ways away on this battlefield for some reason. Some battlefields are huge, while others are much more cramped, and this one looks like one of the biggest that I've seen in recent memory. So 2nd, 3rd, 6th. I don't have a lot of infantry in this scenario, so I'm just getting rid of our 1st, 3rd, and 6th division. We're going to run 2 defensive divisions of cav, a stronger division in the 3rd, and then a jav cav division in the 6th. Trying to get creative with these unusual armies, right? More cavalry is suboptimal. We already know that, but you can make it work, and hopefully these tactics here give you some ideas. I'll definitely do some editing. You can't even see the enemy, they're so far away. All right, actually, the horse archers are coming in. I better pick up this part here. We'll include this. They have 60 horse archers here that just volunteered to die. They suicided, basically. We have tons of cavalry. We have jav cav. We have archers. This is going to be a 30-second whipping. But if I'm perfectly honest, I alt-tabbed to check on something outside of the game. Came back and the horse archers were almost in my lap. But yeah, okay, doesn't matter. You guys see. Same thing. The horse archers by the enemy, immolated themselves. Now that was like 60. That wasn't 260. So there's still a lot of wood to chop. And we used a lot of javelins to do it. All right. Well, we got to move up here. We got to be methodical. Now, I think this is a mirage lake. And I don't mean like the water's not there. What I mean by it is that it's not water. I'll run into it. I'll show you what I mean. This is, I'm sure it's a bug. This does not act like water. So I'm going to set up here at the edge of this marsh or whatever, oasis, whatever you call this. But watch this shit. I think, unless they've changed this. Yeah, look at that. There's no effect. I'm like Jesus, just walking on the water here. So it's a little bit of a strange situation because my brain says, let's use this water, right? Let's set up on the edges. Let's pound the enemy while they play defensive. But there's not much point, actually. You could just be in the water because it isn't water. It's basically a mirage. Quite literally, it's almost like it's intended to be a mirage, and the enemy is camped out. So what do we got here, right? Anytime the enemy camps out and you got high ground, you take it, right? The enemy's sitting there with a bunch of archers and infantry. Why would we make a frontal attack when there's a giant hill over here? We can stretch out our units, get some elevation, pound them in the face, and we can probably make them charge in a battle like this, right? We have enough archers, I think, to make them charge us. And once they charge us, of course, then the odds of winning this battle are way, way higher. They have a lot of infantry, archers, and cavalry still. We only killed about 60 horse archers. So don't have the RTS mod, so we're just gonna tell some more anecdotal shit as we move over here. Again, this article covering attention span was really fascinating, and it's another example about how society very regularly adopts new technology without any concern to the consequences. One of the big ones that happened in the 90s and early 2000s was antiseptic. Basically, you could get a little bottle of antiseptic, hand cleaner and shit like that, and parents all of a sudden, look at these fucking archers, shot me from 700 yards away. Parents all of a sudden had their kids just bathing in antiseptic, right? Oh, we kill all the germs. Every time they eat a meal, we use this antiseptic. Every time they play in the playground, every time, let's just sanitize everything. And what doctors have learned is that's terrible for your children. And basically what it is if you never expose your children to germs, they never fucking develop defenses for it, right? Of course, 300 years ago, we didn't have these things. It doesn't mean you should go lick the toilet bowl. It means you should let your kids, and we literally, we had a doctor come in and talk to us in the fire department. He was talking to us about different things, and then he went on a rant, almost like I'm doing right here, and he said, let your children go play in the dirt. Your kids literally should have their bare hands in the dirt on a regular basis. It's good for them. In fact, you're depriving them of their natural resistances by keeping everything so sanitized. So phones, social media are similar examples of that, right? Where we're just readily adopting this fucking terrible phone that rings at midnight and wakes us up or makes a little noise, and we got to check it because it could be a text or a dick pic or something exciting. And so our attention spans are going to shit. All the while, these social media companies have become the biggest, most powerful companies in the world. It's an ominous trend. Now, I'm sure I sound like a boomer. Okay, boomer, whatever. I'm going to use antiseptic. I'm just telling you what the science says. The science says there's disconcerting things that are coming with this stuff, right? Social media, for sure. We're going to have lack of social skills for large portions of our population soon. If they're not getting an emoji, they're not going to be able to understand how to act in a social environment. All right, back to tactics here. So we're just pushing this cav off, and I just unleashed a hail of javelins. We have the high ground, which is really bad AI. The AI just sat by the marsh getting malaria while we took the high ground here, and now we're just shredding them with archers. I have an infantry division behind cavalry over here, and we're just going to start flanking this incoming vanguard. They're being sprayed. I can split these two archer divisions too to make it even worse. Basically, just like the last battle, we're orchestrating death here, and we're at this stage we're a master conductor. This is like some fine classical music right here. Get these archers spread. The infantry should be charging here. I thought I told them to charge twice. Now I gotta not die here. You look at the power bar, and the enemy actually has more in the power bar. I think if I got killed right here and the AI took over, we lose this battle, right? So we're gonna get this guy's off their horse. Get off your horse. Damn it, I'm fumbling shit. Infantry and that 6th Division charging both flanks. The archers are kind of getting tied up here, but man, is the enemy being peppered at short range too. Of course, those shots do even more damage. That's one of the dangerous things. I've mentioned it before. Charging Fiend Champs is a little bit like looking into the nuclear reactor at Chernobyl when it had gone berserk. You just see this awesome power, and it's intimidating just to look at it. Yeah, that's going to work. Anytime you see arrow, those guys are completely unmolested. They have lots of ammo, right? They have the most ammo in the game. And that's a mix of fiends and heroes because, of course, the 4th Division is our best archer division. The weaker of the two archer divisions for most of these is highborn warriors, right? You see a few heroes in there, but there's a whole lot of highborn warriors, and of course they're still getting kills. You can watch the death span; they're still racking up kills. But most of the archer kills are obviously fiends and heroes. That's your tier 4 and tier 5 Battanians. Now it's closer than I thought this was going to be, partly because they have a good army, right? They have lots of infantry and lots of archers. It isn't that much of a secret. Those are the best two units in Bannerlord. Cavalry have their uses, even with the changes, though, to cavalry in Bannerlord. I think most armies, the most heavy cavalry you're going to want is 25 or 30%. And by the way, if this style where we sort of explore army composition is popular, I'm going to do one for Valandia. We'll probably do one for Khazate, because kingdoms are different, right? For sure, Battania is different than most kingdoms. And Khazate would be very unique. Valandia, there would be more cavalry for sure. The Asterai would be interesting, right? How many horse archers would you take if you had a choice? A lot of guys are out there crafting the army in their head while they do their mundane job. They're not thrilled about. Believe me, I do the same thing. When I'm a firefighter, I'll do maintenance on a truck, and while I'm doing maintenance or something like that, weekly checks, I'm thinking about an episode we're going to make, right? We're thinking about the next twist that the Valandian campaign is going to have. So, you know, it's fun to imagine what kind of army composition is ideal. Should you have a whole bunch of Jav Cav, right, and a bunch of infantry? That would be interesting. Ultimately, infantry and archers still rule Bannerlord. And we ruled that battlefield pretty thoroughly. All right, let's try some other weird shit here. I said we needed to do infantry. I guess we could do infantry in a village. 60. What do we do here? I want to do just a random village. It's hard just to spin the dial, right? It's hard just to go in here because it doesn't click. Like you spin and click, and for some reason it doesn't click. So here, that'll do, right? I've never Chornobas. I've never heard of that. It sounds... I was going to say it sounds Sturgeon. Maybe it's Battanian. I don't know. We'll give them some infantry here, a mix of archers, and see what we can do here. This isn't a bad army composition, but you have to be very intentional with this kind of an army, right? Where you have lots of infantry, and you guys have heard me talk about it. The Battanian infantry is great, but we have to use them intelligently, right? We want to separate the shock troops, the skirmishers, and make a very weak square out of the 1st Division. The reason I think you want to do that is because the square really is a negative asset. It's purely defense. And if you have your best infantry in the square, unless you have a lot of troops or, the luxury to do so, you're really losing out on a lot of firepower. And you definitely don't want a bunch of shock troops in that square, right? It needs to be 90% shield guys. So shock troops, of course, in the 3rd Division. 1st Division is way too big. I like it to be about 50, maybe 60. And again, by hitting that low tier preference, you'll get more of the little picked warriors and the lower level infantry. That would be preferable. That way our 6th Division has some good Oathsworn, has some good wildlings, the veteran skirmishers, stuff like that. Fucking trees. Now this battlefield is compacted. I can't fucking move, and the enemy's close. So let's see. I'm a little panicked here. They have 200 archers. Let's put archers here right at the edge of this cow pen. We're gonna have to move up systematically. I want to get inside these cow pens because you still want whatever you want to call these little horse fields. You still want room for your troops to maneuver. If you get stuck in an area and your units can't shoot, or your archers get pressed against a whole bunch of their nasty infantry unexpectedly, you can get into trouble here. It's very tight. Of course, we have a huge army, right? We have 400 troops. The enemy has 600, right? So this is an unusual battle for this village. There are villages that are a lot tighter than this too, so this is not too difficult. And this left pan, man, how beautiful for skirmishers. We can eventually move archers up into it, and we've got the enemy kind of right where we want them. They're sort of pinned in the center of the valley, or the center of the village here. And I actually love these kind of battles, right? You got to get really creative. So what do we have? We have lots of skirmishers, so we can put them right to the edge of these little horse fences and tell them, throw javelins in there until people scream. Right? We've got all these all these wildlings. They get cavalry over here to protect our right wing. And I think eventually we'll move archers up. Let's split the fort. Let's borrow like 15 guys here. There's a little ridge behind me here that I saw. We should be able to use that. You see that up there? That's going to work beautifully. Watch this shit. Fucking love Bannerlord. All the little things you can do like that, right? Now that's 15 or 20 archers that have a great spot. They're protected by fences, shooting into the center of the village here. And now the key is just be systematic, right? We have a ranged advantage. They have a lot of archers, but our archers are far better positioned, and we have way more skirmishers and archers total, right, collectively. Now their cav rode in here to die. These guys have no chance. I've got a second cav division here blocking that door. That was something I did a second ago without telling you fellas. Anytime you have big horse pens like this, right, you want to open up the areas, but block it off to the enemy, right? You want to have your units moving freely, but have it hard for the enemy to get in there. And they have a handful of guys kind of molesting our first division, but this is what I meant. That first division is just there blocking the road. I've got the third division here, and I'm not thrilled about it because they're getting shot by horse archers. I guess we can just sort of square them and send them over by this little village. Just huddle in here, fellas. We do have good archer support here. I just moved the 5th division up, or 4th division up. And I think now we can move more archers into this horse pen too. There's a big open area. Now there's skirmishers in front of them. And we're just systematically closing the vice on the enemy here. In fact, this side here, look at how vulnerable that is. That just screams for a skirmisher division. And this is another one of those situations that highlights the power of Battania. All these throwing weapons are lethal in a village situation because it's tight quarters. You know, we're not 150 units away from the enemy. Cavalry is a huge liability in a battle like this. I don't think I gave them a lot of cavalry, but whatever cavalry they have is I mean, frankly, it's just dead, right? They have no chance. Now they're pushing in here with infantry, good, right? They're trying to get to our archers and skirmishers. I just opened up the gate, but we're going to slam it with this 3rd division charging in behind their ranks, right? We're going to be able to cut across their reinforcement line now with shock troops that are protected. Skirmishers can close the vice in the center of the village. And good night, right? Now, these dipshits ran the wrong way. There you go, fellas. I'll control you guys. You listen to me. Fucking dipshits. You got these little equiti guys being shot to pieces, knocked off their horses. And this battle's way over. It's another example, though, of why, you know, kind of the optimal army, archers, skirmishers, and, you know, I haven't talked about that much, but we're not trying to make the optimal army for siege assault or an open field battle. We're talking about the ultimate army for all situations, because very rarely in the middle of a campaign, right before a battle, can you change out a bunch of your units. Most of the time you've got to fight with what you have. And just another ultra pounding victory here. Almost a 5-to-1 kill ratio with no fiend champs, right? Just blasting the enemy. We're outnumbered by 50%. It's just insane, the power of Battania. Now this, I think, is the ultimate army composition. Now, give or take. About 50% archers, surprise, surprise, 35% infantry, and 15%, maybe 20% on the high-end cavalry. I think that is your best Battanian army. Every kingdom might be different, and really I think the Battanians with this army composition is the best kingdom in the game. If you have tactics, if half of your army is archers, if a third of it is devastating shock troops and skirmishers, I mean, let's be honest, the Battanians now have the best skirmishers, the best archers, and the best shock troops in the game. The only thing they don't have really good units are heavy infantry, just pure heavy infantry, and cavalry. That's it, right? And of course, horse archers. Who needs horse archers when you have fiend champs? All right, so I want to show you another basic, very basic tactic. This is the kind of formation that, again, could be set up during the battlefield. And if you walk away, if you set this formation and walk away, I think we actually still win this battle. Now, I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to basically show you what I call the Battanian Chevron. A chevron is typically a military device to designate rank or something like that. It's kind of it's a little hard to describe, but it's sort of a little arch, or it looks almost like a pair of wings. What we're going to do is design a series of chevrons here, and this is not exactly it. I'll show you sort of the original view of what I designed. It's cavalry wings out in front, right? The second and third are pure cavalry, no javelins. archers on the side. 7th Division is at the back. That's Jav Cav. And these archers can be lengthwise like this, but I've found it more successful to have them in long strips like I showed before. So this would work very, very well. Like if you walked away from your computer right here, this would do very well. The cavalry defend the wings. You have skirmishers chucking javelins all over the place. Your archers rake when the enemy charges you. They're in the center. They're getting all kinds of enfilade fire. Then the javelins start to fly from that final division. I think that would do very well. Now, landscape's important, right? We can see the enemy very clearly here, but I've got all kinds of units with terrible line of sight, right? So we're going to make some adjustments to this and actively fight this battle. Yeah, these guys can't shoot. That archer division's worthless, right? So you got to reposition them. We can just put them on this. Actually, this ridge here is even better, right? We'll move these skirmishers forward. Look at this ridge. Perfect, right? They're right behind the skirmishers. And this is your job as the commander, right? You must set the units in a position to succeed. If you put them when they can't shoot and you lose the battle, it's entirely your fault. 84. My rule of thumb is about 10% of their army. If 10% of their army or more is horse archers, I prioritize it. If it's 10% or less, or if it's like 6%, I ignore it. Your archers will kill them. Here, I actually want to make a concerted effort to destroy them because it's 80 plus horse archers. I don't want them circling us while we're shot and pounded from the rest of their troops. Now, they're engaging in a ranged battle. We like that, right? That's for sure advantageous to us because we have better ranged units and we're defending our units with shield wall. That's just a huge advantage. You can hear this is the perfect use for all your pathetic scouts is to eat some arrows. Now, their horse archers are trying to get behind us here. I don't think so, right? We've got to stop this shit. We can put this 7th Division back here, try to cut them off. Fuckers. On the ground there, dude. Nothing more savage than taking the guy off his horse and then coming up behind him and just cleaving his scalp. All right, let's push this cav in here. We've got a little bit of time here before the enemy engages. The archers are working. Of course, your archers will rake horse archers, but you combine it with a good jav cav charge. You guys have already seen it. Tremendously effective at getting rid of... Oh, the boys are playing dirty today. Tremendously effective at destroying horse archers, and they just insta-died. All right, so 1st Division's here in a square. I'm also going to be mixing in the 3rd Division, right? We've got 2 different main infantry divisions, the skirmishers in a nice big spread. And these cav divisions, in a way, against a heavy cav charge, you're better off just squaring them, right? A shield wall line works better with normal cav, but the Battanian cavalry is so weak that I would recommend you square them and or dismount them. Okay, here they come. The game is on, right? Again, the enemy's suffered enough casualties to say, to hell with that job, right? To hell with that plan. It's not going to work. the arrow fire is something sick. It's just pouring over in a continuous wave of death. And they're just getting filled with projectiles. So this has just been the theme for the whole episode. One of the keys, though, too, is you don't want 80% archers because they will get trampled by cavalry. Here we have protection, right? All these skirmishers just waiting to flank the enemy. Now, if the Battanian infantry were really weak, I would say, 80% archers. But the Battanian infantry is fucking great, right? Hopefully we've demonstrated that. This episode is going to exceed an hour. I'm okay with that. Again, there will be no commercials. We're working on improving your attention span. If you watched it to this stage, I bet you got pretty good attention span, right? That's a very good thing towards your mental health later in life. That helps towards your health in the near term. The enemy is completely fucked. You see what they're doing. They're walking right between our 2 different skirmish lines. Now, our archers over here are in trouble, but those are our weakest archers. I don't care. As long as our murderers over here on the left stay unmolested like that, this battle's way over, right? They're just absolutely... They killed the horse by accident because it got in the way. They killed another horse. They're just skewering everything. And I'll be honest, fellas, and please don't blame me if it happens. I asked Tailworlds to nerf the Fiends. I basically, we have access. There's about 10 to 20 guys that have access to a Discord channel that's exclusive for significant content creators of Bannerlord. And occasionally we get the ear of the Tail World's gurus and editors and liaisons to the community. And very clearly, I said to one guy, I said, I think their infantry or their two-handed skill and their bow skill could both be nerfed, and they would still be very powerful. So if that happens someday, I guess you can blame me, but I think it's warranted, right? As this episode has really shown, and I think this is kind of the culminating battle. We didn't just win here with this Battanian Chevron formation. It blew them out of the water. We have, again, one last time, we have no fan champs, none. If we had fan champs, can you believe how bad these battles would be, right? Again, pushing an 8 or 9 to 1 kill ratio. The Battanians are just uber powerful, and now they have this nasty veteran Falksman, right? So I think the fan champs could be nerfed, and they would still be elite. The fact that they're as they are this powerful already just makes them unbelievably powerful. Now you add the Falksmen that have been significantly improved. The Battanian wildlings were already disgustingly powerful if you knew how to use them. And there is your answer, fellas. 50, 35, 15, give or take. That's probably the ideal formation for Battania. All right, friends, if you want to see more from our channel, now's your time to subscribe. Please hit that like button on the way out. And I will see you, friends, next time.